I'd like to introduce myself, Fred O'Brien. I was born in Ireland, Limerick, Ireland, in 1943, and I spent a career in environmental health in Ireland and Canada. I'd like to introduce to you Niels Stensen, scientist and saint, who lived between 1638 and 1683. He was a prominent scientist and medical doctor of the 17th century. He was the first to describe the endocrine glands of the head and argue for the necessity of mathematical description in biology. He carried out original research on the anatomy of the brain and laid the foundations for 3 new sciences: paleontology, historical geology, and crystallography. He observes that God's purpose in creation was that humanity should seek God's image and should mould itself after that image. But after mankind had neglected the wisdom of God, which is to be found in his handiwork, God took on the form of man so as to give us human beings an example within our own nature of the divine attributes which we must make into our own, so that we may be transformed and united with God. You have probably heard the popular nursery rhyme, the original version of which is, "Ring a ring of roses, a pocket full of posies, a tissue, we all fall down." This song refers to the occurrence and consequence of the Great Plague of London in 1665, which spread via fleas from diseased rats to the human population, resulting in great loss of life. By the time the plague reached epidemic proportions, the king and his court, as well as most clergy and physicians, had deserted London and left its poor to fend for themselves. Sir John Lawrence, the mayor, remained to assume control of the city. Staying behind also were his friend and personal physician, Dr. Edward Harman, the Reverend Dr. Thomas Vincent, and a scientist named John Grant, whose interest in statistics and trends helped to predict the spread of the disease. These people showed unfathomable courage in a time where the slightest human contact could lead to excruciating death. In a wonderful play covering the epidemic, The Living, by Anthony Clarvaux, premiered in 1993, we have Grant, the father of health statistics, recounting the story and reflecting at its conclusion as follows. We know so little, and we don't know much, so people ask me if we learned anything during the plague, and I say we did. Newton did. He came up with something, just as I said, and taught it to us, those of us who lived. Plague spread to Cambridge, you see, and it closed for the duration. Everyone was scattered. Newton found himself on a lonely country estate. Nothing to do but take walks and think. One day he walked in an apple orchard, noticed an apple fall to the earth. Have you heard the story? Looked at that apple? Really looked at it. no one had before? Not really. Wondered what it meant. Wondered if he could describe what had happened mathematically. Tried. Did. Learned that when we fall to the earth also falls a little towards us. So that in fact there is no falling, but a moving toward. Tremendous thing, what Newton found, that the world would fly to pieces, but for a great force, a power in every single body in the world, which pulls it ceaselessly towards every other body, which is pulled ceaselessly towards it, no matter what. We learned what holds the world together in a plague, in a pandemic,